Canada is tapped as a major global energy supplier. I'm Ben Mulrooney. The West Block starts right now. Looking for a stable, reliable energy partner, G7 countries turn to Canada. And political equality. When will that glass ceiling be broken? We speak to my mother, Mila Mulrooney, about just that.
Brian Mulroney, 1,584.
We also talk legacy, what she hopes her late husband's is, and if her daughter might step into federal politics. As world energy works to right itself after the U.S.-Iran war, leaders at last week's G7 highlighted Canada. Their statement read, "We commit to accelerate the diversification of energy supply routes in order to reduce global vulnerability to the Strait of Hormuz and to increase our energy stocks. We welcome the potential for Canada to deliver significant additional capacity to global markets in the coming years." Henrietta Treyz, co-founder of Veda Partners near Washington, joins us now. Thanks so much for your time.
Thanks so much for having me. Excited to be here.
So what's your take on the G7 statement pointing to Canada as a reliable potential energy supplier?
It is a very phenomenal development for Canada. And to me, it mirrors a lot of what we saw from Prime Minister Carney's speech at Davos. That was a jump off point from the president's Liberation Day tariffs. It's kind of the second big opportunity that Canada has to take over as what Prime Minister Carney called a middle power and become a much more dominant player, equaling out some of the disruption we've seen from the United States, from the closure of the Strait of Hormuz. It's yet another opportunity for Canada to step into a higher place on the global stage.
With so many countries signaling that they are buyers, what do you think this means for Canada as far as production?
Well, for production, obviously, we know there's two major LNG facilities that are coming online. There's a big effort to move just inter-province regulations, eliminate some of those, get rid of some of the red tape that has plagued Canada for many years, and have more access available to the rest of the world. And what's so interesting to me is that it's not just Europe and typical trading partners, it's also Japan and Asian trading nations. Everybody needs to diversify away from the Strait now, and Canada has basically everything that the rest of the world wants, whether it's fertilizer or crude oil.
Well, this came out after President Trump's agreement with Iran. Do you see the MOU as stabilizing markets temporarily, or are they still on shaky ground?
I would say that we're seeing from gas prices that the market is expecting the regular flow of traffic through the Strait of Hormuz to come back online. But there are many reasons to think that we'll never get back to the pre-February 28th range. And I'll tell you exactly what concerns me is the new program that the IRGC is setting up around insurance, mandating that you coordinate with the IRGC, which is, of course, a state sponsor of terror or foreign terrorist organization in all Western banking nations. And what this is doing is creating a permanent inflation risk, a permanent inflation component. You're going to pay more for insurance risks. You're going to pay more just to communicate with the IRGC to get your ship through the toll and through the strait. And that's going to become a permanent function that is not addressed by the MOU, other than to say maybe 60 days from now, this all comes back on track.
So how worrisome is that for consumers? I mean, here in Canada, we're hearing what you just said is an opportunity for us. But in the interim, before we get all of that up and going and spun up here in Canada, what's that going to do to consumers?
Well, for consumers, you should not count on the price of crude dropping nearly as fast as it rose. So the rule of thumb is twice as slow to come down as it took to go up. If you use that and try to just use it as a blunt instrument, that puts you back at pre-February levels in mid-November. So we have months to go before there's anything equalized. And of course, that requires that the strait actually does reopen. We're getting something like 27 ships through a day since the MOU was signed. And that's all fine and well, but it's nowhere near the 130 ships that we were getting pre-war. So with the insurance rates higher, with the premiums higher, shipping costs higher, and now the requirement that you coordinate with the Strait of Hormuz and the IRGC, you really have a big persistent problem that suggests to me we will not be getting back to $2.81 gasoline in the United States or for consumers for months, if not years to come.
Well, as you said, shipping traffic through the Strait of Hormuz stalled again. And how have prices at the pump reacted to this new instability in the region? Have they gone up? Have they gone down?
They have come down. It is shaky. And again, they haven't come down nearly as much as they've gone up. So for U.S. consumers, we saw gas get to $4.56. That hurt a lot. And now we're down to $3.99. So that's great. It's definitely better than where we were, but we're still $1.15 higher than where we started off. So there's still a lot of agita in the domestic electorate. And you can see it, 78% of independent voters think that this was a misguided war and they don't approve of the president's plan here. And it sounds hard to say, but the Republican base is so deeply connected to President Trump and so supportive of his policies. But even they only have 70% approval of the way the president handled this war. So he's effectively underwater with, I think the total is 68% of Americans.
Okay, so the price at the pump probably won't go down till mid-November, but how will consumers see prices change this summer as far as the cost of everything else?
You know, unfortunately, this has a huge bleed through, and the impact to groceries, to food products, to services, to even the U.S. Postal Service has an 8% surcharge on every single thing that you ship all the way through 2027. So there are going to be these delays as we see anything in the diesel or crude knock-on effects come down.
Is there any bit of good news you can leave us with?
At least it's over. You know, that's really kind of all I can say. I'm optimistic that this ceasefire will hold. What the president of the United States really told us is the economic risk was getting too urgent. That's exactly what I wrote to clients last week. It's getting too close, too uncomfortable to manage. $5 gasoline is right around the corner. Elimination of inventories is right around the corner. The president decided that he needed to, quit and cut bait. And that's exactly what we got here. And I think that's good news for the global economy.
Henrietta, thank you for your expertise.
Thank you for having me.
His dad didn't drink, and anytime he'd show up at a pub, he would make you hold the Guinness.
No, not hold it, drink it. Sometimes it was at 10 o'clock in the morning.
Coming up next on the show, talking with my mom, Mila Mulrooney, on relationships between world leaders.